time now for the World Brief and the review of some of the headlines from today's newspapers from around the world. First, let me tell you what's happening around the world. Now, just as Trump's tariffs are kicking in around the world, China is showing itself off as a global force. That's as President Xi Jinping is hosting 20 world leaders at the two-day regional security summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Council in the port city of Tianjin. Now, Russia's Vladimir Putin and India's Narendra Modi are among the big names in attendance. Now, China and India, which had been hit with a 50% tariff on its goods by the US, met on the sidelines of the summit to showcase how they are moving from being rivals to partners. Now, for Modi, it's his first time in China in 7 years. He's already announced the future resumption of flights between India and China, which had been suspended since deadly military clashes on their shared border back in 2020. Now, this Tianjin summit is the largest held by the bloc since it was formed in 2001. The SCO is a key part of Beijing's push for stronger multilateral alternatives to Western or US-led blocs such as NATO. Now, Putin and several other attendees are expected to stay on for a military parade in Beijing on Wednesday, which is going to mark the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War, which China refers to as the War of Resistance, of course, against Japanese aggression. Now, the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un, is also expected to attend. Now, moving on, there are hundreds feared dead in Afghanistan after a magnitude 6.0 earthquake hit the east of the country near its Pakistan border, leaving at least 250 people dead and many more injured. Now, the quake struck at 11:47 p.m. late on Sunday, centering northeast of the city of Jalalabad in the Nangarhar province. Now, it was just 8 kilometers deep, but we do know that shallow quakes tend to cause more damage. Now, 20 minutes after the first tremor, a 4.5 magnitude quake occurred in the same province. Now, if you cast your minds back to 2023, a 6.3 magnitude earthquake did strike Afghanistan on the 7th of October 2023, which was followed by very strong aftershocks. Now, the Taliban government said that at least 4,000 people died. It was the deadliest natural disaster to strike Afghanistan in recent memory, so we're hoping that the death toll won't be as high this time. Now, this story did actually break on Friday, but it's one that we have been following on the World Brief, which is the removal of former Thai Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra. Now, an update. She says she has accepted the court's verdict after she was removed over a leaked phone call with Cambodia's former leader, during which she called him uncle and criticized the Thai army. Now, the Constitutional Court had ruled against Paetongtarn Shinawatra, saying that her controversial phone call amounted to an ethical breach. She is now the 5th Thai Prime Minister in less than 20 years to be removed from office by the court. Shinawatra's term was actually supposed to end in May of 2027, but she's now been replaced by the first Deputy Prime Minister, Phumtham Wechayachai, who has been acting Prime Minister since her suspension back in July. Now, a new Prime Minister will be chosen by a vote in the House of Representatives shortly. Finally, we start the new week with the arrival of the Colombia Vice President here in Nigeria. Francia Marquez arrived in Abuja on Sunday ahead of a 3-day official visit. She was welcomed by a federal government delegation, which did not include the vice president himself, but we do know that he spoke at a gala last night, and so he's definitely welcomed her. But we do know that the Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, Uche Nadi, and the Minister of Women Affairs, Iman Sulaiman Ibrahim, were present to welcome the Colombian Vice President. Now, the purpose of this visit is to deepen diplomatic and strategic relations between Nigeria and Colombia. Now, looking at potential areas of growth, there are tourism promotion, anti-drug and insecurity cooperation. We do know that Colombia has long had its issues with drugs and violence and the like. So there's also the prospect of academic partnerships, language exchange, energy cooperation, and also maritime security. So it'll be very interesting to see what comes out of this official meeting. You know, we see so many examples of our president going on his international trips, and now we are welcoming another world leader, the Colombian vice president. So it'll be very interesting to hear what comes of her trip to Nigeria. Those are your stories.
Welcome to Nigeria for a 3-day state visit. But I think very importantly, like you said, is that we often talk about the president's many foreign trips abroad. And what he said is that he's very passionate about strengthening relationships with, countries, different countries around the world to see how best Nigeria can position itself to benefit from these relationships. And this is part of it, but this time we're the ones who are doing the hosting. And as we often say that the taste of the pudding is in the eating. We can make a big show of inviting or welcoming a world, a leader in another country. But it is what we want to see at the end of the day are the deals. And most importantly, as we often emphasize, is the follow-through of these deals. We've come from Japan and Brazil very recently with a number of MOUs being signed. But what we hear are headline announcements, whether it's the government saying they're going to do X, they're going to do Y, or we announce the release of this, or, one immigration status. And then what we find out down the line in months or years to come is that nothing was actually done after that. So yes, we celebrate these collaborations between countries, between Nigeria and other countries, but most importantly, what we want to see is how we can then benefit, whether leveraging on some of the things that have worked. You talk about agriculture, which is a big focus of this administration, tech, a big focus of this administration, human capacity development, which is a big focus of this administration. The president's always quick to talk about our biggest assets being our young people, education sector, the health sector. These are some of the ways where we can, really glean, not just announcing aids, announcing MOUs without anything coming out of it. Agreed. Very quickly, a justice system that works. Thailand. And, like you mentioned, we've been following this story. Very interesting story. She was suspended in July, and further down the line, the court actually removed her from office. The process thereafter, a number of people have asked, what next? Even in terms of the relationship, let me just point out something. Her dad, who was also former Prime Minister of Thailand, is also part of the mix because he had a close relationship with the former Cambodia leader. Yes. And whilst he had a leader, so you can understand the term uncle. In fact, they call each other god brother. The former leader and her dad. Yes. So that was there. But I think what was very important was the importance of patriotism. The content of the leaked phone call where she actually undermined the efficacy of her military almost in support of Cambodia, and that got her into trouble. Her dad also got into similar trouble when he criticized the monarchy in Thailand, and that's actually an offense, according to the Constitution of Thailand. But going forward, in terms of the new prime minister that would emerge, what would happen is that 50 people in parliament have to support a candidate, and then that would be put to the vote, and then the candidate must secure more than half of the makeup of the House. Yes. And the thing is that there's no timeline. So it can be from now till whenever, but in terms of democracy working, the justice system working, and when leaders are able to be held accountable is what we see on display, which is very commendable.
Definitely. Thank you, Ali.
So I have a little different slant when it comes to Thailand. So I don't really think it's democracy working. I think it's the hegemony of the military and the higher authority, which is the royalty, the monarchy in Thailand. That's what is really playing out. And also, when you look at the antecedents with the call with Cambodia, it's because they had a spat recently where they went at each other and they've been fighting over a disputed territory at that point. And I think this also goes to show the high-handedness, because all of the protests to start with and everything was all supported and arranged by the military. It just shows that Thailand is not really free. I mean, isn't not the same Thailand that we have the Majesty laws that you cannot dare say anything against the high up the monarchy and the military? So there are like 3 layers of government. Democratic governance is like the 3rd layer. The monarchy is one, the military is another one. So anytime you do anything against the military, then you will suffer for it. Then, in fact, we have seen leaders being pulled out when the military brings up trumped up charges against you in Thailand. You don't even need to do anything. I mean, she's a Shinawatra. A lot of Shinawatra has gone through the process, apart from Takshin, which is a father, Yingluck, another Shinawatra, and how now. So, yes, you might make the case for nationalism and everything that stand with your country and institutions, but it still shows that it is the monarchy and all of that. That same scrutiny can never be visited on the monarchy in Thailand, can never be visited on the military. And for me, it lives for an unbalanced society. But some people argue that, you can see what Thailand is doing economically and all of that. These are valid arguments, but it just shows the high-handedness across board to me. I mean, that's another side to the argument. And that does not dispose the validity of your arguments, please. Your arguments are very valid. Perspective. Yeah. So, but
this is an excellent debate, I have to say. So much mutual respect. I love it. Go ahead.
No, but I mean, the arguments are very valid. Yes. I just put a perspective to it. What's it called now? The Nigeria-Colombia relationship. Another very apt one. Also, let's even play into sentiments. She's Afro. She's an
Yes, if you see her,
Afro-Caribbean origin.
she's an
She's
Afro-Latina.
a lot of partnership, a lot of things we can work on. Drugs, yes, Nigeria being a big, transit camp. We've been hearing about drug cases being busted. And also even how to fight terrorism. Because Colombia also had their own issue with FARC, the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, and how they dealt with it over the years and all of that. But the kind of terrorism Colombia faced is different from ours. Theirs was more of a political slant. Yes. I don't believe we should do what we did. Colombia should do what we FARC to Boko Haram and like these are bandits, these are criminals. Colombia had to make some concessions, political concessions to those bodies and things like that. And for China, it just shows what we normally talk about, the Thucydides trap happening, where nations are saying that the hegemony of the West might not last forever. Let's also challenge, and that's what they've done with this Shanghai Cooperation, SCO, where they're having meetings and all of that. And leaders probably from the Eastern Bloc, Iran, observers, Russia, Belarus, and the likes, and all of these countries, they are meeting. And they're also saying that there must be a counter-opposition to the West. Definitely Trump will not like this. But when you also look at the grand scheme of things in the world, he has made a tilt toward the East more possible because he has deviated from the Western tenets. E.g., the case of Ukraine. By not standing with Ukraine, allowing Russia to be able to get a way around Ukraine, look at the summit that he said was going to hold at some point. You can see talks are dead as regards that. His lack of leadership, instead of you to fight for how to consolidate Americans' position in the international scene, you are going to the path of isolationism for America. Your Western allies can't even trust America at this point. And it's happy news for them. And that's why you see that China is triumphantly celebrating 80th anniversary, how they fought against the Japanese. If you remember historically, the rape of Nanking and things like that, how Japan used to do China over. So China is also saying we're a big world power at this point in time, and that's what is playing out on the global scene. And America should watch it. This is where America needs leaders.
Can I just say also, as well, that talking about China providing a platform, President Putin was there to talk about how the West was to blame for his invasion of Ukraine or the war in Ukraine. So this is what happens when there's an alternative superpower and you can skew the narrative to suit your own agenda. He said they're the ones who, provoked in the first place, even, embracing Ukraine to join NATO. And that's the kind of platform you can say that sort of thing.
Of course.
There are not many platforms that would entertain that, just to see what's happening around the world.
Definitely.
With superpowers.
Always a wonderful conversation when we're talking about geopolitics. Let's move on now to newspaper headlines across Nigeria. Of course, let's start with the front page of This Day. This Day does lead with the federal government insisting that the Northwest and not the Southwest has the lion's share of President Tinubu's projects. There's also news of the Aviation Minister, Festus Keyamo, who says the PDP is in legal risk if it fields Goodluck Jonathan in 2027. Then you have former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai predicting that President Tinubu would come third come the presidential election. Now, the New Telegraph also leads with the federal government saying that the distribution of capital projects is equitable to all zones, going on to say that the northwest of Nigeria is the biggest beneficiary with 5.97 million naira as a new curriculum for basic, senior, secondary, and technical education is unveiled. Now, the paper also reports today is International Day of the Disappeared. That's on the front page still of the New Telegraph, where there are 23,659 people still missing in Nigeria, according to the International Committee of the Red Cross. Unfortunately, Nigeria also records 16,000 suicides every year. Let's move on to The Punch. The Punch leads with the political power dynamics in Rivers State changing yet again. That's as the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has regained his grip on the state's political grassroots, which his successor and estranged political godson, Governor Sim Fubara, temporarily dispossessed of him in the last 2 years. Now, Fubara lost his LGA, Opobo Nkoro, to the main opposition party in the state. Now, the All Progressive Congress won 20 of the 23 local governments, while the ruling People's Democratic Party won the remaining 3 LGs. Now, both the APC and the PDP winners are Wike loyalists, as we had already discussed. Now, in response, we do have the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar demanding an annulment. In a post on X on Sunday, he did criticize the administration of our current president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, over the manner of the elections, how they were conducted. He said that the people of Rivers are currently victims of political brigandry to a power cabal which is bent on overturning their democratic rights at all costs. The Enquirer leads with a deep dive into the reportedly broken education system in the Federal Capital Territory. Invigilators are owed marking fees from as early as February, classrooms are dilapidated, and pupils are abandoning the classroom for farms. Perhaps that's something the Minister of the FCC should be focusing on, perhaps not River State. Maybe. Let's go on to the Vanguard. The Vanguard has IPMAN, which is the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, saying that petrol consumption has fallen 28%. They're not too happy about that. Daily Trust finally leads with an investigation which finds that 69 days after the federal government launched the 2,000 tractors and other implements for mechanized farming, they are yet to be distributed to farmers. Now, farmers groups are expressing concern and a little bit of anger that this year's wet season is slipping away and they haven't received those tractors. Those are your papers.
I mean, if we talk now, they'll say we're talking. Please, I need to point out something about the Rivers election because we would like to beg, if this is the joke we want to do in 2027 election, just spare Nigerians. What RESEC did is the most shocking thing I've ever seen in my life. Let me give you some data to play with. The last presidential election conducted, APC got 231,000 in Rivers. LP got 175,000 in Rivers. The total valid votes was 576,000. 576,000. This local government election, goodness me, this Dr. Gift Onyewodu must be the most popular man in Nigeria.
Why?
Because in an election, he beat President Tinubu. His vote in this last local government election of 300 in Obiakpo, 328,823 was more than the votes President Tinubu scored in the presidential election in Rivers State. This man is more popular than President Tinubu.
By far, clearly.
In Rivers State. That's the kind of joke RESEC has given to us in elections.
It's a very serious issue.
It's a very serious, but it's a joke.
It is.
We will.
My goodness.
We will.
All right, let me talk about Mr. Festus Keyamo education as well, because just to highlight that we've often talked about education reform, a look at the curriculum, and now the Ministry of Education has come out to announce that they're going to phase out the current curriculum, and they've given guidelines for primary, secondary, and tertiary, which I think is a good move. What they've concentrated on this time is to unburden students with not overburdening them with number of subjects they have to take. So right from primary school to secondary school, which I think is very, very good, because what you find out in schools is that a lot of, they're learning so much and learning nothing because they're overburdened. We say primary school student doing 15 subjects, but now they've limited it, capped it from only minimum of 7, maximum of 10, and so on as they go higher, which is very brilliant. It's still a lot, but it's better than what was obtainable.
Agreed.
I think what else they should look into in terms of education is the state of our schools, the quality of teachers, more teacher training. They've already announced introducing AI to the curriculum, and then reintroduction of some of the things that we have talked about. I know the military have talked about even security awareness as part of the curriculum. These are some of the things that we can use to really make our curriculum stronger. One point about Mr. Festus Keyamo, he made a good point, and that is that the PDP missed a chance in 2023. I said this last week, and I agree with him, that by fielding, by the candidate they fielded, they lost a prime opportunity to remain or perhaps give the opposition or give the main government a run for their money. Well, thank you so much, Adefemi. Always good to hear you bring us in World Brief and also, of course, News for Reviews.